I had everything I ever wanted. I had a husband, I had 4 beautiful children, a nice house, a job that paid well. Happiness came from outside pleasures, not from the inside. Um, we, it came from shopping, it came from going on fancy vacations, eating at fancy restaurants. It was all about status symbols and such things. And then my well-constructed house of cards broke down when I started to dive into the world of psychedelics.
Psychedelics are said to shift our fixed perspectives, giving us a bird's eye view of our own lives and helping to remove the lenses of cultural, religious, and social conditioning through which we are taught to see the world. They are being used therapeutically and somatically to treat depression, addiction, PTSD, and trauma, and many are using them to explore the ineffable, those unknown realms of consciousness and beyond. Join us in Adventures of the Psyche as we learn how psychedelics have transformed people's lives. Welcome, friends, to Adventures of the Psyche. Today we are joined by Christina Kaufmann, whose ayahuasca experiences revealed repressed sexual trauma that, since addressed, have led to her living a fuller, embodied, connected, and loving life. Christina is a neo-shamanic practitioner, energy worker, and wayshower with a background in legal and currently lives with her husband and 4 children in Switzerland. She has dedicated her life to support people in their healing with a transformation from victim mode into victor mode.
I had this difficult childhood. My mother was sick since I was very small. I was passed around. I was angry. I was a difficult child. I was the black sheep of the family that just didn't fit in. And in my teenage years, I was not connected to my sexuality. I had this inability to connect with people on physical level. I didn't feel sexually attracted to boys. I had rigid rules how sex is supposed to happen, and it was very controlled and strict. And as a young woman, I additionally noticed I was not connected to my emotions. They were literally shut off, but I felt that this was normal as I didn't know any better. It was all about control in my life with my emotions, my relationships, and even in my professional life. And nevertheless, at that time, I felt fine how it was all playing out. I found a man, a beautiful man I connected to on a soul level. He founded a family, and on the surface, my life looked perfect. I literally had everything under control, was known as a person to get the job done, whatever task I was giving. And in my family, I was quite rigid. I was a protector of my children. They could always rely on me. I was called the lioness mother, but I was not very affectionate. So I was standing before them, but not with them or next to them. And then 4 years ago, it happened that my friends, they invited a famous Chinese master for a group gathering at their house. And he pointed me out of the whole group who needed the most healing, although there were older people and sick people, and it was weird to me. I couldn't understand. I never thought that anything was wrong with me, and I didn't understand what he was actually talking about. And that was also the time that my husband, he started to work with himself with plant medicine and urged me to attend a plant ceremony retreat too. And I thought, I don't need this. I was fine. I didn't do drugs. I never really drank alcohol. I was very clean all my life. And, but, you know, I went there anyway because he was very much insisting. And after a few ceremonies, I felt familiar with the medicine and noticed actually some positive changes within me, which made me hopeful. And then when I was actually really feeling good and easy with it, the ceremony happened where I saw those sexual images coming up, which disgusted me. And I pushed them away over and over again, but they kept coming up. And I felt very sick in my stomach. I had a horrible feeling. And yeah, I couldn't do anything. I felt like a victim because they kept coming up. And then I decided, okay, I surrender and ask them to show me what this is supposed to mean. And that was the moment that struck me that I had been sexually abused and trafficked as a child. I remembered suddenly, and I was able to cry a waterfall for myself. It was terrible. It was heartbreaking, but at the same time, it was a huge relief. My spine straightened, and I saw this big protection armor just fall off my body, and I felt this huge power, and at the same time, very light and a freedom like I've never felt before. My back and then my neck pains that I had all my life were literally gone, and my healing path started at this moment. And I thought that was actually it. I'm free. It was not a deep emotional experience, despite the tears. It felt more like a distant memory, something that happened, but you have nearly forgotten about it. And this is what plant medicine does. She's very gentle, and she only gives you what you can handle at that time and nothing more. Then my last pregnancy came with a lot of challenges, and me and my son were lucky to have survived. The birth and the labor was very intrusive. They had to get the baby out. Lots of needles in my uterus and other things they did. Afterwards, I had various pains in my joints that no doctor was able to explain. And I really thought it was just something that came from birth, something physical. And then the next time I did ayahuasca, after the big revelation of the abuse, the medicine took me into the deeper parts, experiencing the emotional pain of the sexual abuse. And I was screaming for hours. I was letting it all out, and the shamans kept coming to me, supporting me, and I couldn't care less that everybody was looking at me. I was just screaming, screaming, screaming. And I've never screamed in my life like this. I was actually very closed off for voicing myself. So it was something I've never done before, and I couldn't even imagine doing it. And I just did it, and I didn't care. And with all these screaming, the emotional part of the abuse, all these hurts and pains came out and left my body. And it was also the biggest shift I ever had with ayahuasca or plant medicine. Afterwards, I felt so completely free of my past. It was like cut off, out, done. I was able to let go of the control completely. I could open myself up fully. I could let people into my core. I lost the feeling of not being good enough and unworthy, and all the stuck energy that was unpacked and left my body helped me also to embody my true essence. I was able to breathe into my stomach, which I had never been able to in my life, despite many tries. I suddenly felt vibrations from my speech and from my singing in my feet. I didn't even know that this existed. And I was able to love more and more deeper. I was more affectionate. I was very actively affectionate, not just passively. And also sexually, it opened up a lot of channels, and all these rigid rules were not valid anymore. I was able to be more active, taking part instead of just letting it happen. And that was, something also very profound, because I didn't know how to do that despite wanting it to. I was unable. I was like stuck. And with all these things that happened, so many other magic and beautiful things showed up in my life. And I realized so many other people struggle similarly. And I followed my inner guidance to support other people in their healing, like I was healing. And now in my practice, I help people to overcome their trauma and empower themselves so they can feel just as whole and complete as I do. And every time somebody is opening up and can release the trauma, it makes me so happy, because I know how different life can be when you live your life just on the surface and this superficial happiness, or when you can really have this deep and rich life and enjoy it to the fullest and in your core. So that was my story, how ayahuasca helped me really to overcome everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. So I'm curious, how do you explain how the process of reconnecting to your body helped you have more of an ability to give love?
Because your emotions are stored in your body, and when they're stuck and other things are stuck on top, you can't express them, you can't really feel them. And by releasing the emotions and the negative emotions from the body, I could actually open up my positive emotions.
Do you feel that we need to fully experience or relive our traumas in order to release those trapped emotions?
You don't have to live it fully like I did. There are also other ways. That's why I work with people on an organic level. That's not so hard. But for me, it was really necessary because it was so repressed and I had nobody who was able to do the work I do at that time. And therefore, psychedelics were for me the first way to go, the first way to do that.
So if there's something you could have told yourself 5 years ago before you even were thinking about psychedelics or plant medicines to help you on this journey, what would you say?
Trust and surrender. That's for me the most important part. And I was fighting a lot in my ceremonies. I was struggling. I was fighting the medicine on all levels instead of just giving in, because everything she does, it's for our best, and really helps us. But the ego is often in the way. So trusting myself and surrendering to the process fully without any obligations. That's the most important part.
Great. Oh, such a joy having you, Christina. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.